Hi there, welcome to the first segment of Millennial Travels, a simple segment of me making the most out of a trip in different locations. For this segment, the location is So with my Frontier Flight Pass, I decided I'm going to go to Miami as my first destination as a spur-of-the-moment deal, as I've never been to Miami and it would be a solo adventure. So I arrived at the Miami airport safely around midnight. The airport had a sleek design with some parts feeling a little bit more dated compared to the other airports I've been to. When I got to the exit, I booked an Uber as it was cheaper than Lyft at the time. So after a short ride, I arrived at my Airbnb in Little Havana, which was located in an apartment complex with other units. There was no elevator, so there was some extra exercise getting up to the third floor. The room was cozy and was better stocked than some hotels I've been to. If I was forced to complain about anything about the Airbnb, it would be that the Wi-Fi and phone data connection, at least in that area, was just almost like super slow or non-existent at this spot. The neighborhood was a little bit older, but quiet, which is what I wanted. For my first day in Miami, I walked to Little Havana with a plan to take pics and videos along the strip until I reached the restaurant called Sandwich, because I was hungry and I needed something to eat, so I was like, I saw this place as well reviewed, so I was going to go there. So I headed out, taking in the sights, enjoying some of the sunshine, while seeing all these curly-tailed lizards scurrying about, and chickens chilling out in some empty lots. The strip for Calle Ocho had many restaurants, cigar shops, some museums, and lots of wall art. After getting to Sandwich, I had my delicious Cuban sandwich, and I headed back the opposite way on the strip to catch the other half of the street. I stopped by a local grocery store called Presidente to grab some essentials, as I figure I can eat one meal at my room and one out at a place I've never eaten before. After getting my groceries, I stopped by the visitor center to browse and get some postcards to send to some folks back home. After leaving the visitor center, I heard some good violin music and found it coming from a local restaurant with a woman dancing in the front of the restaurant, and I decided I'd check it out. At first I thought there was some sort of event going on there because there was a lot of folks with like stickers on their shirts, but then it turned out they were part of some Miami bus tour. So I got me a mojito and I just kicked back in a chair to enjoy the AC and listen to like my own private violin show. After dropping off the groceries, I decided the next part of my journey was to find the Warner House, which I walked to with a vague idea of where it was located. On my laptop it seemed pretty simple, but when I tried looking up on my phone, it was just showing me all these different locations. So as I was walking, I didn't have much luck trying to find it, as it just kept giving me weird spots around Miami. Fast forward on this lovely walk, I found a raisable bridge near the side of the river that had a whole bunch of yachts by a gym. After getting the okay from the gym, I went through the place to take some pics of the yachts and relax a bit to admire some of these big old boats. It's not every day you get to see a gym on the side of the river with some big fancy expensive boats right beside it. So after this, I decided to walk along the river and find out if there was any other cool spots I could find that was similar to the gym. So after a while though, I decided I'm going to go back home, but I had to stop by this Publix first. And then I decided, after I got some turkey bacon, that it was time to end the day and go home. So after the hot and tiring walk from the previous day, I decided I was going to take advantage of the public transit for Miami. Now with the public transit, the Metro Mover and the trolleys are free. The buses and monorails are not though, so you'll need to pay with cash or with the Go Miami Pass. I decided I would go with the app version, as you can easily pay for a day pass to use the transit as much as you like for that day. Skip to this time code for my amateur explanation of the app. For my first trip, I kind of headed towards Miami on the 207 route. Then I got off at the Mercy route, and my goal was basically to reach the Vizcaya Mansion and Gardens, but I saw a cool religious building near the Mercy Hospital, and I stopped at the far end of the hospital to take in the views of this oceanside hospital. After that, I discovered the Imerta de la Caridad, which was blocked by a fence, so I had to walk around the whole perimeter of the hospital to get back to the road. The next available entrance was the one that led up to this fancy place, but it seemed like in this property area, it seemed like it was a lot of religious-oriented buildings. There was a lot of churches, some schools, and things like that. So after a bit of my walk, I finally reached it. And one of the things that kind of threw me off, or at least I thought was interesting, is that it kind of looked like that one building from Jurassic Park, the one where they ride up with those jeeps. So after circling the building, taking in the views, I headed back to the road for the Vizcaya Mansion. Now the Vizcaya Mansion is situated on a lot of land with large, beautiful gardens surrounding it, with a great oceanside view and an interior ripped from some period piece. When I arrived at the Vizcaya grounds, I was greeted with a trail surrounded by trees on both sides, with statues placed along the way. After paying the gate admission, I was immediately struck with the beauty of the walk to the mansion. There was these fountain-fed streams on both ends that led down to the location. I can only imagine what it'd be like at night. When it came to the gardens, it's sort of hard to explain what I felt like while I was walking them, but probably just mesmerized by the grounds. I just loved how there was so much nature around, making this old place feel alive with all the plant life and all the little lizards scurrying about. My favorite part of the gardens was this raised platform with all these trees encircling it. Or it was maybe the mini gazebo by the ocean that was just had this great view of the ocean, and it also had this view of this like stone boat that you couldn't reach. Now, for the interior of the Vizcaya, it was phenomenal. It had a ton of well-decorated rooms with beautiful ornate tapestries strewn throughout. My favorite spots was the courtyard and the main entrance with its intricate tiling. I just wish there was some party that was going on where I could sip some wine and eat some artery-clogging food, because that place would have been cool to do that at. So after the Vizcaya, I headed to the trolley stop that was going to take me to Miami, and I got to see some peacocks singing before my ride came. So I rode it until I was at the south end of Brusquel section to reach a post office to mail some of those postcards. Fun fact, I had no idea that there were special stamps for postcards. So, I guess you learn something new every day. After walking a bit, I ran out of water and I got a refill from the nice folks from this restaurant. So sometimes signs are sent to you on what you're supposed to do, and this particular one came from the daily rain spells in Miami. I decided that waiting in the rain for a bus stop wasn't going to be fun, so I headed to the closest Metro Mover station. Now, something I should mention is that the Metro Mover, you just have to make sure that you're on the right loop, or I guess at the right station, because if you don't, you'll literally just go in circles and not reach the spot you want. Also, there's some stations that all Metro Movers go through, so if you're at one of those stations, your ride will eventually, come through to that station that you're at. Through the Metro Mover, I eventually arrived at the Frost Museum, which was mainly focused on ocean-oriented exhibits that were interactive. They also had a variety of sea life in these aquariums for everyone to enjoy. So there was multiple floors to this museum, with each section dedicated to a different aspect of the Earth. My favorite exhibits were the aquariums, especially with the one that was above everyone that's really cool to go see, and the planetarium, which has these hourly shows that focus on the Earth and other sciencey stuff. When I finished everything at the museum, I went outside to the upper floors of this place. And with these sections, they had these great views of the surrounding area, so I took advantage of that to take some pics and video. Unfortunately, due to the time of the day, I wasn't able to go to the Perez Museum next door. So I just hopped back on the Metro Mover to hit the next item on my bucket list, which was the Bayside Marketplace. So the Bayside Marketplace section that I was in had a lot of clothing and food options on the upper floors. I decided to eat at this restaurant, where I got myself a Cuban sandwich, mojito, and a new food discovery called tostones, which was good. So after this meal, I headed back to my room along the river to one of the drawbridges, and I caught some folks doing some tricks, which made the walk more interesting. But what I would say is that you got to make sure you are on the right side of the river, or else when they raise those bridges and they're pulling a boat through, you're going to wait a long time. For this day, I used the rail to get to the Black Police Precinct and Courthouse Museum, which was one of the first precincts in the nation to have black police officers. The museum has guides that used to work with the Miami Police Department that give their own account of working as a police officer during the earlier years, and some of the folks they knew who helped foster growth within their community. Also, you'll learn the origin of the symbol of the city of Miami. After this, I hopped on a bus for the Wynwood Art District to see the Wynwood Walls. One of the first things I noticed upon arriving was the graffiti and the wall art all around. There were some big chain stores, but at the very least they tried to blend in with their own unique art. As I was taking in the sights, I spotted a farmer's market of sorts that was primarily just food. There was a lot of good smells coming from this event, so it was nice to randomly come across it. So after checking out that farmer's market, I went to the main graffiti attraction. The Wynwood Walls itself is mainly a set of outdoor exhibits composed of statues, ground art, wall art, and exhibits in some of the buildings that have these pieces from various artists. The price of admission seemed reasonable for all the art that you get to see, so for someone like me who loves different mediums, this was a great place to visit. Be sure to get there at a good time, because if you're not, this place can easily get busy and swamped with a whole bunch of people taking selfies and then also taking in the arts. So on the final full day, I took the Miami trolley to go to South Beach to see the fancy houses, the strip, and the beach. Getting to South Beach by trolley was quick and easy, as long as you know your routes or at the very least use the Miami Transit app. When I finally reached South Beach, I headed a bit north to Collins Park and then worked my way south, taking pics of things that I thought looked cool. I eventually hit South Beach, where I got to see one of my favorite of all time art styles in building form all along the strip. Also, as a bonus, I got to see where one of my favorite films are made. Unfortunately, the CVS opted for a less colorful look to stand out from all the other buildings. So after checking out the Scarface Hotel, I eventually reached the pier, took some photos, then I rented a city bike to head back to go get some food, and then basically just called it a day after getting the trolley. For this day, I had to check out early, and since I had my bag and my luggage, I didn't want to walk around Miami looking like I just hopped off a plane. So I booked an Uber for the airport. After hopping on the plane, I arrived back in Dallas safely with a lot of pics, videos, and memories of this fun solo trip to Miami. Overall, this trip was something awesome that I needed badly in my life. This solo adventure happened at the right time and place, and I'm happy that I was even able to do it at all. I have some future places I'd like to visit that I'll be sure to post up on another segment of Millennial Travels. With that said, y'all stay safe and have a good one. Alright, quick little segment about the Miami app. If you're not going to rent a car, I highly suggest using the Go Miami app. An Uber can quickly get expensive. If you're on a budget, you can use a public transit to get to where you need to go. You can search up specific routes if you already know where you might need to go. So if you're lost, you can also open up a map and see the nearest stop and then see where it can take you, which I thought was really cool. I happened to get some day passes for the time I was there, but you can easily get a weekly and a monthly pass as well. You just gotta determine what would be good for you. In my personal opinion, I made good use of it, but I would suggest getting a card just in case the app doesn't load properly, which that happened to me several times while I was there. Oh, and then to kind of like circle back, the Metro Mover and trolleys are free, but they don't run, they're not like 24/7. Now, when it comes to the buses and the monorails, those are paid, and that's where you're going to use your pass. But that is basically the Miami Pass. And with that said, y'all stay safe and have a good one.